Part 36. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 353. Humans don't know that at this time, this giant mosquito has used action power that humans cannot react to officially declare war on the metal monster. The giant mosquito has never thought that he still has an ally like humans. It's not that he doesn't want to have a comrade, but he doesn't have any expectations for this comrade's combat effectiveness. So I would rather act alone. Boom 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 boom. The 17-meter huge body, at this moment, was like a dragon swimming in the deep sea, roaring wildly in the sky, covering the sky and the sun. Perhaps the scope of the purge was limited to a radius of 500 kilometers, perhaps because he did not want to see anything like that with the little boy and his family in the future within his own scope of activities. Perhaps it is also a disguised form of self-deception. The so-called out of sight is pure. As for other places, I'm sorry. Jia Yan thinks that he is still unable to do it now. A huge war that has never been seen before, a huge war with one enemy against 10,000, is about to begin. And just when Jia Yan slowly unfolded, he once again mutated and gained tremendous power. An aircraft located outside the Earth's atmosphere, carefully observing the lower world, also received an energy signal. The figure of a woman is sitting on the driver's seat of an aircraft, her red lips gently kissing a transparent wine glass filled with red wine. She seemed to be enjoying herself very much, but just when she was about to swallow the red wine. Beep 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 beep. Waves of reminder sounds resounded in this beautiful and luxurious aircraft. The woman froze for a moment, and then her eyes turned to the surveillance screen. After that, her seductive eyes full of strange charm gradually opened wide as if she had seen something incredible. How could it be him? Isn't he dead? This woman is naturally the representative of the so-called Empire, De Funi. At this time her disk aircraft. It was the same ship that once carried Jia Yan. Parked high above the Earth's atmosphere. This place is at least 1,000 kilometers away from the Earth, but she still has a way to see the scenery on the Earth's surface. And the figure on her monitor was indeed the big mosquito below. In the posture of flying. Without watching half the pay, De Funi's expression became more solemn than ever before. What the hell is going on? Not only did he return to Earth. He became so powerful. Why on Earth? Just when the figure in the disk aircraft above was shocked, Jia Yan, this shocking big mosquito. Already traveling, flying quickly. Humans have been unable to use radar or even satellites to locate his body. So at this time, except for the disk aircraft located in the vacuum of the universe, nothing can observe his figure. But when the war spread, this countless war will definitely bring death to this world. Bring an earthquake-like vibration. Isn't this the first goal? When Jia Yan flew around the small village for only 5 minutes, he discovered a dozen metal monsters walking in a ruins. There was not a trace of hesitation in his body. Attack downwards. Boom boom boom. With barely 2 breaths, his figure rose again. These metal monsters had no resistance at all and died instantly. Jia Yan's current body, coupled with his current attack power, is not something that a small metal monster can look down upon. His body continued to move, but the metal monsters in front got the news in an instant through the mysterious connection. At this time, they began to gather for war. Both sides are ready for war. A war between giant mosquito monsters and metal monsters is about to begin. Boom 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 boom. In the calm wilderness, on some road sections with few vehicles, a cautious man, carrying a lot of debris on his body, was walking with difficulty on this road. There was a lot of blood on this man's face and his body was covered with scars. Shanghai Market is not far away, I can definitely get there. The man looked at the road signs on the highway, looked at the map in his hand, and cheered up. But on the road he was walking, 5 metal monsters suddenly jumped out of the woods on the roadside. Ah, the man screamed, then dropped what he was carrying and hurriedly fled to the rear for his life. Among the 5 metal monsters, the red light in the head of one of them flashed, and he was about to attack, but a black shadow in the sky, like an overwhelming mountain peak, whizzed down. This shadow slammed into the road surface, and the earth-shattering collision sounded throughout the world. Those metal monsters, which had no resistance at all, were smashed to pieces. Ah! Giant mosquito. The escaping man noticed something strange behind him, looked back, and exclaimed, "Hello! There are no metal monsters on the road behind, so feel free to go." Just when he was surprised that the giant mosquito monster appeared, a gentle voice appeared next to the man. Okay. It seemed that this was not the first time that the man knew that giant mosquito monsters could talk, so after hearing the giant mosquito that almost looked like a small mountain in front of him speak, he was not overly frightened. He was just stunned for a moment before he agreed. Jia Yan took another look at this human being, then flapped his wings and flew high into the sky. The war continues. Because there were not many metal monsters in this area, and there were not many more gathered together, in the early days of the war, all Jia Yan encountered were small groups of metal monsters. Kill them with just one attack. Although there is no danger, killing small groups is also quite troublesome. But these circumstances changed half an hour after Jia Yan started killing metal monsters near the small mountain village. Swish! After avoiding 2 huge red rays of light, and then withstanding the attack of dozens of tiny red rays of light from metal monsters, Jia Yan's compound eyes finally lit up. Very good, it's finally interesting. The big mosquito's body was 1,000 meters high in the air. Looking at the scenery before his eyes, he finally became interested. After attacking so many metal monsters, the metal monster finally gave him a pretty good dish. On a road in front of me, there were more than 2,000 metal monsters gathered. These metal monsters stood on the road one by one, with red lights on their heads, and their movements were uniform. You can tell by looking at them that they have extremely strong fighting power. For Jia Yan, they are a nice appetizer. At this time, countless heat sources exploded, and the huge red light streaked across the sky, finally making the people on Earth react. Someone is fighting the metal monster. With countless satellites pointing their lenses at the ground, even though the body of the big mosquito cannot be monitored, the heat source near the battle and the scene of the battle cannot be deceived. And there are big mosquitoes, it's just that it cannot be monitored by radar electromagnetic waves, rather than being optically invisible, so when the satellite put the lens on this place, I finally saw the real scene. Oh my god! It's another war between giant mosquitoes and metal monsters. This time it's the 17-meter-long giant mosquito. Almost instantly, the images transmitted by the satellite made the monitor's blood boil. The giant mosquito monster has disappeared for such a long time. Many people suspect that the powerful 10-meter giant mosquito died of injuries in the last battle with the metal monster. In fact, the 10-meter giant mosquito has indeed not appeared again. Even the humans on the Earth have doubted whether the giant mosquito monster will appear again. If we lose this extremely powerful helping hand, then the humans on the Earth will continue to be the same as before. Same, falling into the situation of being completely suppressed by the metal monster. But today, mankind feels that hope has come again. The giant mosquito race, which had been without any news in the past 40 days, actually appeared without any warning at this time today. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 354. His appearance was so sudden, not as exaggerated as the last time he broke through the sky, and it didn't alarm many people. Even if the people at that hospital hadn't put the video they shot online, even the top brass of the Chinese nation wouldn't have received news of his arrival for a while. He appeared so quietly, no one knew where he came from. But there is only one thing that people firmly believe in. This giant mosquito monster, which has grabbed all the internet and media headlines in the entire human race within half an hour of its appearance, is definitely the other biggest savior of mankind now. His huge body is even larger than the huge 10-meter giant mosquito before. And judging from the appearance of the body, although it is impossible to understand the source of that power, no matter how you look at it, you can know that this giant mosquito monster is definitely much more powerful than the previous 10-meter giant mosquito. The reason is very simple. Giant mosquito monsters have always been bigger and more powerful. This pattern has been engraved on people's understanding of them. The last giant mosquito monster was able to destroy a metal monster's red light building, but what about this one? It must be possible. Although there is not much reason, when they saw the news about the appearance of this giant mosquito monster, countless people already had great confidence in this giant mosquito monster in their hearts. But they really didn't expect that their ideas would be verified so quickly. Half an hour. People haven't even recovered from the news of the appearance of this giant mosquito monster. Suddenly, there was news that this giant mosquito monster had launched an all-out attack on the metal monsters around Shanghai City. This news is like a shocking message. Everyone was suddenly shocked by the two consecutive pieces of big news. The efficiency of this giant mosquito monster is really high. It has just appeared and it can't wait to start a battle with the metal monster. Now, there are unnecessary discussions and disputes. Show up online. Someone said. The previous giant mosquito must have died in the previous battle. This even larger giant mosquito ancestor came out to avenge his mosquito grandson. Maybe those giant mosquito monsters disappeared before. They all died in the battle with the metal monster, otherwise. Why is this giant mosquito so anxious? As soon as it appears, it will fight to the death with the metal monster. Others say that this giant mosquito monster is obviously confident in its own power. Otherwise, they wouldn't just start fighting against the metal monster. According to the previous situation where a giant mosquito monster became more powerful when it was a circle larger, the combat power of this giant mosquito monster could be seen. It is definitely not comparable to the previous giant mosquito monster. There are also people who maintain a pessimistic attitude, that is the giant mosquito monster before. They have been beaten by the metal monster for more than a month and have been unable to appear. Even now, they still don't know whether this giant mosquito is alive or dead. Although he seems to be stronger, his combat effectiveness is still open to question. All kinds of speculations on the internet are constantly being issued. In fact, from this point of view, we can see that human beings are tenacious creatures. More than a month ago, Jia Yan thought that human beings would plummet and turn into a civilization that has regressed for many years. But I didn't expect that in just over a month, the human network became developed again. Although the war with the metal monsters did not make much progress, it was able to persist for a month under the offensive of the metal monsters, and even developed a civilization. With the recovery, it has to be said that the people on Earth are indeed the spirits of the Earth and the darlings of all things. Of course, Jia Yan during the battle had no time to think about such things. Why did he come out to fight the metal monster just after the mutation was completed? The little boy's family is just an opportunity. The more reason is that Jia Yan believes that almost every battle between him and the metal monster is fought under his forced defense. Every time the metal monster attacks, he is forced to defend himself. Shouldn't this method be changed? Just after the mutation is completed, the metal monsters have no time to react, so they are caught off guard. This was Jia Yan's real idea behind launching the attack in the first place. The initiative in future wars will be in my hands. At this moment, Jia Yan's eyes flashed. After that, his huge body moved in a blink of an eye, and it seemed that he couldn't even catch his sight. If there were a human being here, he would definitely scream in surprise. The 2,000 metal monsters in the lower realm waiting for help all fired red rays towards the giant mosquito above. There were even huge red rays of light on the horizon, acting as a supporting force to attack the giant mosquito together. But in the face of such a large number of attacks, the huge giant mosquito monster showed a speed that did not match its own body. It's so flexible. The big mosquito at this time can move at an instant speed that is definitely faster than the previous 10-meter body. It's getting bigger, and it's actually faster. This thing that obviously violates the laws of physics actually has the biggest reason. That is Jia Yan's current brainwave power. In the high vacuum of the universe, Daphne saw the big mosquito facing the attack of 2,000 metal monsters. The reaction and defense of the body, the crimson lips, opened slightly, looking extremely shocked. Not only did he become huge, but his brainwave power, why on earth could it suddenly become so powerful? It is actually much stronger than my brainwave power that I have been practicing for 300 years. Daphne was extremely horrified and looked at her with admiration after 3 days apart. This sentence would definitely work for Jia Yan. What she didn't know was that he and this big mosquito, who had unsworn hatred, had already experienced 2 huge mutations in just a few months of separation. In fact, there were many reasons why he wanted to worship her. Given. If she hadn't plotted against this big mosquito, how could he have mutated in the sky above Neptune out of desperation? If he hadn't plotted against this big mosquito, he wouldn't have had the opportunity to mutate. Even when he was 6 meters tall, he might have been killed by the army of metal monsters. While Daphne was so horrified, she also felt a little regretful in her heart. The big mosquito used to be her ally, but now, this ally is definitely an enemy. If you could let go of that kind of hatred, then this big mosquito killing people underground wouldn't be so ferocious. What should I do? I must let him kill him before he takes revenge on me. Daphne's tender and watery colored lenses, which originally looked full of charm, suddenly revealed a sinister look. This representative of beautiful appearance is turning his brain again to calculate the big mosquito below. Boom 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 boom. Accompanied by a huge roar, a huge red light shot on the road. Countless metal monsters on this road were suddenly attacked by the red light and lifted into the sky. Some of them were already broken into pieces at the moment they were lifted up. The other part was also seriously damaged and became helpless. Repaired individuals. The attack of the huge red light is still so powerful. But in this attack, the ferocious supergiant monster with a body of 17 meters and a wingspan of 35 meters has already used its incredible reaction speed to fly quickly into the sky. The red light explosion shockwave behind him made it impossible to chase him. Gentle roars vibrated in the air. If Daphne could hear this voice, she would definitely gnash her teeth in anger. Because this is the way she taught Jia Yan to use brain waves. That's right. The reason why Jia Yan can reach such a fast speed now is because of the powerful brainwave power taught to him by Daphne in space. After the mutation of the Azure Crystal, Jia Yan's actual physical combat effectiveness has also been greatly improved. However, the bigger the body, the slower the reaction. Even a 3-year-old child understands this truth. No matter how powerful his body is, Jia Yan cannot violate this law of physics. If it were just his own strength, this power might also be able to make his body react quickly, but it would definitely not be able to do what it does now. While moving fast, it seems to be as light as a heavy weight, as if the antelope hangs its horns and there is no trace. What caused this effect was the brainwave power that mutated again. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 355. The biggest benefit of using the Azure Crystal mutation may not be reflected yet, but the increase in brainwave power has already greatly excited Jia Yan. His brainwave power has become much stronger after mutation. Even in the air, pushing my now huge body feels effortless. Okay. As long as I am more vigilant, these huge red rays of light are no match for me. Jia Yan's huge compound eyes, which were already full of luster, became even more shining now. Die. At the next moment, his body slammed towards the ground, and those metal monsters that had been temporarily unable to regain their combat effectiveness due to the attack of the huge red light attacked them. The knife-shaped horns of his front feet were raised fiercely, cutting across the metal monsters on the ground one by one. After an attack, the knife-shaped horns on his front feet took away the bodies and lives of more than 100 metal monsters. Try using brainwave power. Buzz buzz. There was a slight sound of air vibration, and the moment Jia Yan wanted to use brainwave power to attack, he had a reaction. The whole air was filled with this kind of vibrating sound. There were even metal monsters that lost their ability to move due to this extraordinary vibration and fell apart all of a sudden. Die to me one by one. Jia Yan suddenly raised his brainwave power to a huge level that he had never used before. Phew. 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 Each metal monster actually disintegrated automatically under Jia Yan's attack. Blah blah blah. Piles of metal monster bodies scattered on the ground and fell down. This is actually my current brainwave power, so powerful. Jia Yan looked at the ground below, unable to speak to himself for a long time. Although almost 500 or 600 of these 2,000 metal monsters had died under his previous attack, under his powerful brainwave power attack, they all automatically disintegrated at once. There are more than 1,000 left. It all turned into a pile of scrap metal. So strong. But this can only be done against less powerful opponents. If the opponent's defense is strong, I still need to attack with my body. While Jia Yan continued to fly, he also thought about the advantages and disadvantages of his brainwave power. It would cost too much to continue such a large-scale attack. It won't be long before they are exhausted. Jia Yan has always fought alone. So even though his current brainwave energy can be used many times, he has no comrades. It's still a habit, not to list attacks that consume too much energy as your regular combat moves. He continued towards the metal monsters around him. Search and attack away. The big mosquito killed all 2,000 metal monsters in one breath. Not only he knows it, at this moment. Literally the entire human world is observing what he does. He is about to leave. Will he continue to attack the metal monster? Oh my god. Adjust the angle quickly, it doesn't matter even if the satellite is damaged. We must catch him. From the monitoring station on the Huaxia side, a man senior leaders kept clamoring. They never imagined that the combat power of this giant mosquito was really more powerful than the previous 10-meter giant mosquito. Originally, when these people discovered that the giant mosquito monster was slowly picking up the metal monsters that were just over 100 kilometers away from the Shanghai Stock Exchange, they were thinking that this giant mosquito monster was just taking care of a small group of metal monsters. Or a truly large-scale attack. They also saw the craze on the internet, but they didn't dare to be like those netizens, thinking that this giant mosquito monster really just showed up and started a full-scale showdown with the metal monster. After all, the greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. If the giant mosquito monster does not really launch a general attack on the metal monster, then they will definitely be disappointed and psychologically unbalanced. After all, in this battlefield, the ones who most want the giant mosquito monster to fight the metal monster are the soldiers like them. The more metal monsters the giant mosquito monster kills, the less casualties their comrades will suffer in the future. But I didn't expect that this giant mosquito monster would actually start a full-scale showdown with the metal monster. Maybe he wants to clean up the entire area around Shanghai and within 200 kilometers. This commander had an expression of anticipation on his face. If the giant mosquito monster can help them and clear out the 200 kilometers surrounding Shanghai city, then the entire Shanghai area will be safe instantly, and their supplies and people will be able to be arranged. This commander only thinks about the 200 kilometers around Shanghai. But deep down in Jia Yan's heart, he wanted to clear out all the enemies within a radius of 500 kilometers. Some people would say, he can't do it. Jia Yan is using his actual actions to accomplish this. Not only for humans to see, but also for him to see. After all, the shadow of the metal monster has been a huge threat to him since he was growing up. If it weren't for them, Jia Yan wouldn't have endured so much pain. Not to mention that your life will not be threatened often. What he is doing now is to show himself, that is to prove that the metal monster is no longer his opponent. After mutating again, he has already surpassed the level of metal monsters. If there were not too many of them, it would not be impossible to wipe out all the metal monsters in the Earth world in one go. The next target is the metal monster red light building in the northwest. This time I will definitely be able to destroy it without any damage. Jia Yan was flying, while dealing with the scattered metal monsters, with a strange light in his compound eyes. Fly northwest. About 200 kilometers away from Jia Yan, there is also a red light building. He didn't miss Jia Yan's red light. Even before he underwent this mutation, he was slightly injured. Revenge. Boom 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 boom. The big mosquito roared in that direction, using a speed of almost 12 times the speed of sound, and rushed away. The speed of this giant mosquito is too fast, exceeding 10 times the speed of sound. We can hardly catch him. It's over. It has disappeared from the screen. Hurry up and capture his body for me. If that doesn't work, estimate where he will fight the metal monster. We couldn't record such an exciting battle. It's definitely a mistake. Many people gathered in the monitoring station. Giant mosquitoes and metal monsters were fighting. How could those high-level officials miss such exciting news? At this time, everyone came here to watch the battle scenes. But they don't need to worry at all. Even if they lose the trace of the giant mosquito in the subsequent battle, they will definitely be able to detect it. Because of the battle that followed, the energy of the battle was impossible not to notice. Boom 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 boom. The extremely huge flying creature flew towards the sky. The more he flew, the more excited he felt in Jia Yan's heart. At this time, his speed looked fast, but he didn't use too much force. It seemed that his normal speed was this speed. At this speed, he felt that he could even fly for a long time. You know, this is a speed of more than 10 times the speed of sound. Heaven and earth are up to me. At this time, Jia Yan really felt this way, and he now felt that the earth was really too small for him. High in space, in the cockpit of the gorgeous aircraft, there is a woman with red hair. Under her beautiful face, the sinister expression has never disappeared. He just looked at the giant mosquito monster below that was getting more and more courageous as he fought, and the regret and disbelief in his heart became stronger and stronger. She didn't know how this monster escaped the explosion on Neptune, or how he returned to Earth. At the same time, what she couldn't figure out the most was how this monster transformed from a 6-month-old monster in a short period of time. A meter-long evolutionary beast that grew into a 17-meter giant beast in one breath. The time is too short. In such a short period of time, this evolved beast monster born on Earth has actually grown to such an extent. If this growth rate is followed, it is not impossible for this evolved beast to grow into a real starry sky beast. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 356. If I had known, a few months ago, when he was still weak, I would have seized the opportunity and killed him for sure. Daphne is extremely remorseful. The fighting power displayed by this giant mosquito even frightened her. The monster had previously been able to enter her aircraft. And now, 17 meters, almost as long as her aircraft. How long does it take? If an exploration ship comes over and checks my memory, and finds out that I was the one who trained this giant mosquito monster like this, I might even get a big demerit, which would greatly reduce the possibility of me becoming an official resident of the Empire. No. I must think of some way to kill this giant mosquito. Even at his current growth rate, if an exploration ship comes and reaches a level that can affect the exploration ship, it will be a terrifying thing, so I must find a way. The lights dimmed, and the woman who was full of feminine charm was covered in the gloom under the lights, and her expression became a little ferocious. The big mosquito's body may not be so elusive, but his speed is too fast. Even if you heard the sound of the earth shaking, the next moment, this body had disappeared from people's sight. A speed of 10 times the speed of sound is more than 3 kilometers per second. In a few seconds, he flew from one end of the world to the other, and even his eyes could hardly keep up. The behemoth was flying, and finally in his compound eyes, he saw a huge building in the distance. At this time, the sky and the earth were drizzled. This building is bathed in mist and rain. Its body is larger than the one in Suzhou that Jia Yan destroyed in a fierce battle before, and it has 2 huge gun barrels, which are facing the north and south directions. Perhaps knowing that the most powerful enemy was coming, the 2 barrels turned to the direction of Jia Yan at this time, one in front, one behind. Each one of them is shining with red light. Compared to humans who don't understand, these metal monsters seem to know well as day Funi that the huge monster in front of them was the giant mosquito from before. The giant mosquito even destroyed a huge building of the metal monster. So they remember what this so-called evolved beast looks like. That's normal. That's right. The feud between Metal Monster and Jia Yan. In fact, it is also a normal manifestation of a civilization facing the so-called evolved beasts. An evolved beast is treated as a creature with a very high threat level in all nearby civilizations. Besides, the previous Jia Yan was just a tiny mosquito in the battle sequence of the metal monster. Naturally, it is placed at the top of the list of kills, because such an evolved beast is an easy target to kill if the metal monster encounters Jia Yan. He is already such a huge giant mosquito, maybe the metal monster is another way to deal with it? Of course there are no ifs for anything. Confrontation after confrontation between Jia Yan and these metal monsters has become a life or death situation. Big Mosquito at this time. Looking at the huge building covered by the drizzle in front of him, there was a calm look in his compound eyes. Perhaps after experiencing many battles, Jia Yan has become more and more accustomed to fighting and facing big scenes. In fact, now he has great confidence in this building, so at this time, looking at this building, there is no fear at all. Those 2 barrels are very flexible. Already on the move, he aimed his muzzle at the air where Jia Yan was. Perhaps if I break through the destruction of this building, it means that the balance between me and the metal monster is completely broken. From now on, I will be at another level of strength, and they will no longer be my target. Jia Yan looked at the building, his eyes full of confidence. This building is about 400 meters high, but Jia Yan had already destroyed a similar building before going through this mutation, and even understood its internal structure. Is it possible for him to fail? There is no possibility at all. Click, click, click. In the gloomy weather, the 2 gun barrels finally moved slowly, and there was a red light, flashing up. They're about to attack. Destroy it. From now on, you mining machines will no longer be my opponents. Jia Yan suddenly moved forward and launched an attack. His flying altitude was about 1,000 meters, and the building was also 400 meters high. The contact between the 2 happened almost instantly. Here we go. In the high vacuum of space, a scene of a giant mosquito fighting a metal monster building appeared on the screen in front of Daphne. This woman's face was as gloomy as the weather below. She couldn't destroy the metal monster's building even on the surface of the earth. If this big mosquito could destroy a building, it would prove the fighting power of the big mosquito. It may be more than her. She didn't know that as early as more than a month ago, before she arrived on Earth, the giant mosquito had already started a fierce battle with the red light building, and even destroyed it at the cost of serious injuries. If she knew this, Her already ugly face would probably become even more ugly. The human satellite was also aimed at the giant mosquito and the red light building. They knew that a war that continued more than a month ago between the 10-meter giant mosquito and the metal monster building was about to start again. Everyone is observing this scene. This battle can be said to be the focus of everyone's attention. Boom boom boom. The powerful body headed downwards. Jia Yan's heart did not waver at all regarding his attack. It seemed that the battle with this red light building was no longer full of danger, it seemed as simple as fighting a group of metal monsters. He didn't know why, maybe after the mutation, he no longer had the slightest worry about things that he could defeat the last time he mutated. Or maybe in my sense of biological threat, I didn't feel that this red light building still posed such a terrifying threat to me. In short, he wasn't excited, nor was he roaring in his heart, he just attacked quickly downwards. Swish. Two red rays of light shot fiercely in the direction of Jia Yan. They are all about the size of a bucket. If you are hit by one, it will definitely be a huge explosion. But the light in the big mosquito's compound eyes suddenly brightened at this moment. With a whoosh, Jia Yan made a beautiful turning movement in the air. Originally, it was impossible for him to dodge the red light shots so close to him so easily, but now, he still turned around with great flexibility and dodged the two red rays of light. Next, I want to verify one thing. If the verification can be successful, this red light, and even more weapons, will never be a threat to me. Jia Yanfu's eyes flashed with brilliance. More intense. Just as he was descending rapidly, the two huge gun barrels appeared red again. At the same time, around the building below, the sky was covered with at least 5,000 or 6,000 metal monsters. Show up there. Jia Yan already knew from the last attack that these metal monsters may regard these red light buildings as their home base. Some metal monsters who are injured or lose energy go to this building to replenish their energy, so there is such a thing here. He wouldn't be surprised at all when the polymetal monster appears. Swish, 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 swish. The combined attacks of thousands of metal monsters hit the sky where Jia Yan was, covering the sky and the ground. Boom 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 boom. Jia Yan could only hear the sound of plop, plop, plop coming from his tentacles. At the same time, his body was trembling. The figure that was already close to the two giant cannons was attacked by countless attacks and was shaken away from its whereabouts. Track. After enduring the attacks of so many metal monsters, Jia Yan did not use his own evasive methods, but with the twinkling of his compound eyes, he endured them all head-on. Every second, he had to withstand at least 100 or 200 attacks on his body. Soon, a faint blue color appeared in his body. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 357. This is the effect of azure crystals. Compared with the sky blue when it was attacked for the first time before the mutation, the blue that appeared at the beginning was mixed with deep brown. This brown color is like thick ink, turning the blue into a deep color. His defensive effect is not ordinary powerful. The red light of the metal monster that had just arrived at the exoskeleton seemed to be directly blocked by an invisible energy. Even if it explodes, it can't cause any damage. The big mosquito's compound eyes were even more shining. Swish. At the same time, two huge red rays of light, mixed with countless small red rays of light, attacked Jia Yan. It's now. Jia Yan suddenly made an evasive movement in the air. In an instant, his brainwave power suddenly reached the limit of this body. He had already avoided the shooting angle of two huge red rays of light, but he still used his brainwave power towards one of the two rays of light. Buzz buzz. The power of brainwaves vibrated in the air. At this moment, the big mosquito felt that the flow of time around him had slowed down. He looked at the two red lights and shot towards the direction where he was before. The straight shooting line, just as it approached the huge brainwave power he released. Bang! Suddenly, in 1/100th of a second, Jia Yan, One of the red rays of light, suddenly distorted after colliding with his own brainwave power. It seems to have hit something. Then its angle completely changed, shooting in the other direction. And another huge red light shot towards the sky along its original direction. Ha 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 ha. It's exactly what I guessed. Jia Yan suddenly had a huge surprise in his heart. The power of brainwaves is indeed something that all civilizations are studying. It can even refract this kind of light. Jia Yan can almost be said to be very surprised. He is at this time. A direct test showed that the power of his brainwaves can refract red light. In this case, he will face similar attacks in the future. There is a powerful lower method. In fact, all of this is something that Jia Yan has already judged. When he used his brainwave power to defend against the small red light shot by the metal monster, the phenomenon of refraction has been discovered. At that time, he had already guessed whether the power of brainwaves could refract red light. But in the past, his brainwave power could only refract even the tiny red light of the metal monster at a small angle. So I have never been able to confirm this. But now, he has mutated powerful brainwave power. Compared with the 10-meter body, it is at least several times stronger. So after a test, his idea was indeed verified. Brainwave power. It is indeed a power that all nearby civilizations need to study and learn, and it can even defend against light. And the power of this power is not only in defense, but also in attack and assistance. It can be said that it can be used in everything. It is almost omnipotent. Jia Yan realized that he had worked hard to figure out the power of brainwaves before, and it was definitely a correct idea. Maybe because of this, he could really become twice or even several times stronger on the premise that his own mutation was powerful. He studied how to block the power of brain waves, and his compound eyes became even brighter after that. A burst of silver light flashed in the disk aircraft in space, and Daphne threw the wine cup in her hand to the side. With a ping-pong sound, the cup was smashed to the ground and shattered into countless pieces. She was angry. This big mosquito had grown too fast, and now under her watch, it had developed a powerful defensive power of brainwave power. Perhaps she could master this power better, but she is completely unable to compare with the big mosquito in terms of total brainwave power, so the other party has once again developed such a powerful brainwave power ability. For her who wants to eliminate the big mosquito, she has added a lot out of thin air. Pressure. Asshole. If this big mosquito had shown such a powerful talent before, I would never have thought of joining forces with him before, but would have killed him directly. No matter how regretful she was, the fact was right in front of her. Daphne's pale face was helplessly restrained. At this moment, she knew that the red light building of the metal monster below might not be able to put this thing away. The giant mosquito monster was killed or seriously injured. This giant mosquito has grown to this stage, which is something no one expected. Then I must think more clearly about how to deal with him next. If I can't think clearly, it might be a danger to me. The look in Daphne's eyes was cold and there were other thoughts. First, we must attract him out of the earth. The true combat effectiveness of our aircraft can only be exerted in the universe. Next. Boom boom boom. The big mosquito's body hit the surface of the towering building hard. In front of his body, there is a thin layer of white light film blocking him. A slight sparkle appeared in Jia Yan's compound eyes, and then this sparkle turned into a ruthless look. This blocking light film is made of something that is difficult to resemble the power of brain waves. Although Jia Yan hits it, you can feel that this light is not really formed by the power of brain waves, but its structure is more stable and has an endless feeling. If Jia Yan hadn't already had a stronger body, maybe even an ordinary impact wouldn't be able to shake it. The last time Jia Yan fought against the metal monster building, it was because he had an unyielding spirit in his body that was supporting his crazy impact. Moreover, at that moment, the knife-shaped horns on his front feet were directly exposed. destroyed. But this time, the feeling in his body was not so passionate, so naturally this attack was not so scary. But just when Jia Yan's body faintly hit this light film, suddenly, an incredible force burst out from Jia Yan's body. Click, 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 click. I saw cracks suddenly appearing in the faint white. The power that emerged on Jia Yan's body was even greater. A knife-shaped horn on his front foot was pierced on the light film. No other part of his body was close to this light film. Not long after, an overwhelming sound came from the knife-shaped horns of the front feet. The sound was not from his own knife-shaped horns, but from the light film on the opposite side, which finally couldn't be resisted. The knife-shaped horn penetrated hard. After that, it was like the building collapsed. Ping ping pong pong. Countless light spots appeared in the sky and earth. This light film is directly similar to the power of brain waves. Its structure is more stable and seems to be much stronger. But the bad shortcomings are also extremely obvious. That is, as long as the force used is strong and one surface is broken, then the light film will become extremely fragile like a mirror and will be directly shattered. The light spots all over the sky are like snowflakes falling from the sky, falling one after another. This is a very beautiful picture. But what caused this beautiful scene was an out-and-out war. Its poignant beauty. The flowers were becoming more and more enchanting, and the surrounding light spots were falling one after another. However, there was a big mosquito flying up and down in the light spots. The dark color, paired with the gorgeous light, complement each other and are full of enchanting harmony. Boom boom boom. Large mosquitoes are constantly attacking, landing on the surface of the huge building. Compared with the previous 10-meter-long body, Jia Yan found that the defense of this kind of building was easier to crack. Before, he had used all his strength, even at the cost of injuring the horns on his front feet, to barely destroy the defense of the previous building. But this time, he just felt the horns on his front feet and felt a little pressure, but no need to feel it in detail, this pressure has completely disappeared. What followed was the complete destruction of the light film. There is no need to go into details about what happened after that. Under this attack, the huge building in front of him actually destroyed the light film directly by him. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 358. Jia Yan was in the light spot, bombarded. He blasted a huge gap in the cement building below. If it were him before, this gap would have been enough for him to enter. But for him now, such a huge gap is still not enough for his current huge body to enter the building. So Jia Yan's compound eyes flashed and he continued to attack. The attacks from the metal monsters below are like scratching an itch for me, and this building doesn't seem to be much of a threat. Jia Yan looked at the building in front of him with excitement in his compound eyes. To be honest, with his mutation this time, he started this battle without any direct adaptation, so during this period, he has been in the process of adapting. And under such circumstances, there are constant surprises and exciting discoveries. He discovered that his brain waves were powerful. He found that his body became stronger, and what's more, he also found that his defense had been greatly improved. To put it bluntly, if there is no improvement, wouldn't his mutation be in vain? Boom boom boom. An attack from the middle leg of the giant mosquito caused the entire wall of the building to collapse. This collapsed wall directly hit the ground during its fall, burying dozens of metal monsters. The metal monster below turned into a clown in front of Jia Yan. Go in. I'm still very greedy for those azure crystals of the 2-meter cannon. Jia Yan jumped into the huge building. Sure enough, when they entered the huge building, a huge 2-meter diameter cannon barrel in front had adjusted its angle and fired directly in the direction of Jia Yan. But during this period, Jia Yan had already taken precautions. When he saw this red light, which was slightly smaller than the 5-meter giant cannon from the outside, attacking. There was a look of eagerness in Jia Yanfu's eyes. Just do it. Boom boom boom. He suddenly used his brainwave power. Unleash to your most powerful. The front of the body. A faint film of brainwave power suddenly appeared. This membrane looks somewhat similar to the membrane on the exterior of the building that was damaged before. But he is really formed by the power of brain waves. The red light hit the film, and a slight vibration appeared in Jia Yan's mind. What a powerful force! But I can still block it? The strange light in the big mosquito's eyes flickered even more. He seemed to be competing with this light. Wait until you see the 2-meter cannon over there. When another faint red color appeared on the muzzle. It was Jia Yan who suddenly jumped away from the red light that collided with him. He was ejected aside by the power of brainwaves. Boom boom boom. A violent shock wave struck out from this building. It's like a nuclear bomb going off. Powerful shock wave. Push the big mosquito to the wall. However, he flapped his wings crazily and used his huge strength to stop his figure steadily in mid-air. If it's still the same as last time. After being hit by the explosion of red light, he was pushed out of the building. Isn't there no progress at all? Jia Yan's compound eyes brightened even more. At the same time, he found hundreds of metal monsters coming from the corner of this floor. They flocked to his area like crazy. These metal monsters seem to be this layer of defense. They are willing to sacrifice their own lives just to defend against external enemies. But Jia Yan won't think that the spirit of such monsters is commendable and let them go. After all, the two sides are mortal enemies. His wings are spread. Just like the colorful peacock spreading its wings. His figure suddenly jumped up. Boom 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 boom. Powerful wind pressure roared here. The entire floor was turbulent with huge wind force. As I have said a long time ago, the most powerful part of the mosquito is not his front feet, nor his middle feet, nor his hind feet, but his pair of wing muscles. Even after so many mutations, this point remains unchanged. So at this time, the big mosquito is fanning its wings crazily in such a closed space, which is equivalent to sending out a typhoon of unknown magnitude here. Boom boom boom. One by one, the metal monsters hit the gap and fell to the outside world. Each of these metal monsters could not fly. If they fell to the ground at a height of more than 300 meters, it would definitely mean death. Jia Yan is extremely efficient at killing these metal monsters. Happy. Not long after, he saw that the metal monster in front of him was wiped out by him in an instant. Jia Yan's compound eyes glowed with joy. Bo. At the same time, a huge red light appeared near his location as if it was moving instantly. How could I make the same mistake as last time? I was attacked by you again. Jia Yan's head turned. I saw a thin film of light appearing in front of his body, directly blocking the light. Now, Jia Yan felt that all the mistakes he made last time had been made up for. His 6 front legs moved quickly at this moment. Not even a moment. Phew. The knife-shaped cuticle on his front foot has already cut into the base of the 2-meter gun barrel. Cut it off. Jia Yan cut off the base of the gun barrel with one force. Perhaps the person who designed this kind of weapon could not have imagined that the part he designed with the strongest strength would actually become the main part for others to attack. This can only mean that the creature attacking the barrel is too powerful. At this time, Jia Yan was not even injured at all. He was extremely fast. The barrel lying on the ground seemed to still have some movement ability. When he was about to emit red light, he jumped up and caught a blue thing in the base. In the front foot. This blue thing is naturally a blue crystal. Very good, Jia Yan put the azure crystal into the diaphragm of his wings, which was still a very safe place. The previous battle was the most disappointing one, and it has made up for it. Now, it's time to completely destroy this building. Jia Yan's body became even more violent. This is the time for him to unleash all his strength. Everything before may have been because he secretly wanted to avenge himself before the mutation, or to make up for some mistakes and regrets, so he did not use his true full power. Jia Yan is a very arrogant person. This arrogance became more obvious after his rebirth. He had been seriously injured due to negligence in the battle in the huge building in Suzhou, so this time he did not use the mutated. All the power is quietly simulating everything from the previous time. As a result, after experiencing almost the same scenery several times, he made up for what he failed to do in the last mutation. And now, it's time for him to let go of that failure and show his true strength. 4 foot. Step down. Boom. The behemoth's body seemed to be wielding extremely violent power at this moment. This power was as profound as the abyss. His body actually trampled the building on this floor with one step. The cement masonry building easily collapsed under his step. Boom 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 boom. In the majestic building, there was suddenly an incomparable wavering. The whole building seemed to be shaking. Jia Yan is wreaking havoc crazily, and using his true power after mutation, he is already an unbelievably terrifying creature. In fact, he did not use all his strength before. In addition to making up for the regretful accident of the last mutation, there was also a certain reason, which was to test the bottom line of this red light building. If they found Shiyuan in addition to the strength they had seen before, if there are any other back UPS, then if he doesn't use all his strength, there may be a certain chance of rescue. And he hadn't fully adapted to his newly mutated body before. But now, he has not noticed the opponent's backhand, and has completely adapted to his body. His violent attack is just the beginning. Die 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 die. Jia Yan stepped on it crazily, layer by layer. When encountering a 2-meter cannon, he directly used his most powerful state to kill them. Get azure crystals. Soon, a total of 6 azure crystals accumulated in his diaphragm. Tomorrow is the new year. I wish you all a happy new year. Let's see if there is an opportunity to update it during the first month of the year. Thank you for your support over the past 6 months. I hope that this time next year, Giant Mosquito can still keep updating. I hope everyone will continue to support you in the new year. Thank you. Reborn as an Interstellar Giant Mosquito author, Bulletin U. Chapter 359. In this building, not every floor has a 2-meter cannon, but most floors do not have a 2-meter cannon. However, it is not so easy for Jia Yan to pass on other floors. Because in those levels, there are a lot of metal monsters on each level. That's it. This is indeed the lair of the metal monster. He looked at those floors where the metal monsters were repairing and assembling parts continuously in what seemed like a production line. He found that each of these parts were parts of the metal monsters. These metal monsters are not only maintained in this building, but also continuously produced. Destroy them all. If you wipe out a building like this, the damage to the metal monster will be absolutely huge. When Jia Yan saw those metal monsters and their production lines, he pounced on them. Crazy attack and killing. No one could see the combat power he displayed in the building. Even the disc aircraft in the distant space was not aware of it at all. After all, it was extremely difficult for Daphne to see the battle on the ground. Seeing more detailed battle conditions through the metal monster's architecture is impossible. However, the woman in the aircraft, through the previous battle with the Mosquito, seems to have felt that she has determined the Mosquito's current combat effectiveness. So some of her tactics against large mosquitoes are slowly taking shape. If this woman discovers that the real fighting power of the Mosquito is far from what it was seen before, maybe her tactics will change. If she even finds that nothing can be done, this woman might immediately turn the aircraft around, return to her own civilized signal base, and wait for help. Even if Jia Yan can fly her own aircraft to the signal base where she is located, it will be difficult for that huge signal base. He may really be helpless. But something went wrong. This Daifune didn't see Jia Yan's true strength, so her calculations about him were completely wrong. What happened next can also prove the truth of the saying one wrong step leads to a wrong step. But things haven't reached that point yet. It's still Jia Yan's fighting time in the metal monster's lair. Boom 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 boom. Jia Yan is aiming a devastating blow at the production equipment of the metal monster on the first floor. Hundreds of metal monsters. At this moment, his body was completely unable to move, and Jia Yan used his brainwave power at this moment. His brainwave power is powerful enough to suppress all these metal monsters one by one. Hundreds of metal monsters stood there. But he could only watch helplessly as Jia Yan destroyed all their equipment, each one flashing red light, but there was no way he could do anything about it. Jia Yan at this time. He knew that his brainwave power could not prevent the self-destruction of these metal monsters, but he could try not to get close to these metal monsters controlled by him. Okay. All the equipment has been destroyed by me, now it's your turn. Jia Yan destroyed all the equipment and then spread his wings. Wings flap. The powerful wind swept all the metal monsters away to the outside world one by one. With the gravity of the earth as your helper, using your strength to kill them one by one is just a waste of your energy. Boom 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 boom. Not long after, the roar in this building became even more intense. The shaking in the whole building became even more violent. Jia Yan found nothing more among them. Finally, he slowly approached the first floor. Then, with his compound eyes flashing, he was struck by the self-destruction and red light attack of almost overwhelming metal monsters on the first floor. There was a huge impact on the ground. What he hit was the huge pillar of the building. Such a majestic and huge building, even if the scale of the building is unimaginable, uses human construction technology, so it still has pillars, so at this time, he broke these pillars at once, and randomly discovered, the top of the head indeed collapsed. Bang bang bang. Countless gravel splashed. The first floor collapsed. No matter how strong the top floor was, it could not avoid collapse. Such movement can be described as soul-stirring, with constant shaking and mountain noises resounding throughout the world at this time. The whole building was shaking and gradually began to collapse downwards. This is not strong enough. Maybe the collapse above is not complete enough. During this collapse, the giant mosquito's huge body attacked the ceiling of the upper floor again. In the midst of this collapse, the layers rise again. He unleashed all his power, and even the collapsing building had no effect on him. Even if I mobilize all my power, it's still so troublesome to solve this building. While Jia Yan was destroying the pillars one by one towards the upper floors, the surrounding collapse continued. Victory is clearly in front of him, but he is still not satisfied with his own strength. One day, I will be so powerful that I can completely destroy such a building with one blow. So powerful that Daphne will not dare to plot against me, and so powerful that the exploration ship will not dare to attack me when it sees me. Even, so powerful that even that empire is afraid of me. That's right. I must become that starry sky beast. If I am that powerful, all the difficulties now are no longer difficulties, and all obstacles are no obstacles. I will definitely become stronger, I will definitely become stronger. Boom. Finally, Jia Yan's body shot out near the huge barrel of the building. In the smoke of gunpowder, the huge gun barrel had no time to react, and a sharp knife-shaped horn on its front foot pierced its base. Boom 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 boom. Fireworks and red rays of light were still piercing through the mist and rain, but on the battlefield at this time, there was a beautiful picture unfolding. The giant mosquito overturned the base of the giant cannon. The azure crystal among them was picked up by Jia Yan's pair of front feet with a flash, and after being picked up by the middle feet, it was put into the diaphragm of the wings. The metal monsters below had no time to get angry. The huge collapsed building was like dominoes, falling piece by piece, crushing all the metal monsters on the spot. Among them, the body of the giant Mosquito flew quickly around the collapsed building. His speed is undoubtedly reflected at this time. The time it took for the building to collapse was actually not as long as the time it took for him to fly around. After going around in a circle, there was another huge blue crystal in the diaphragm of Jia Yan's wings. The base of another huge gun barrel was also destroyed by him, and the blue crystal was taken out. Not long after, the big Mosquito flew to an altitude of 2,000 meters. At this time, he discovered that there were already 7 or 8 fighter planes near this foggy sky, flying continuously around this sky. They are all combat flight formations dispatched by China's military region in Shanghai. However, in this battle that they cannot participate in at all, these fighter planes can only act as a cheerleading team, and even their voices cannot be transmitted to the extremely hot battlefield. It can be said that they have successfully hit the soy sauce again this time. Would it be better for us to go back? The big Mosquito is looking over here. And look at it very carefully. A pilot spoke on the channel, obviously a little afraid of the giant Mosquito monster. This group of pilots are the same pilots who appeared when the 10-meter giant Mosquito fought against the huge building last time. However, they did not help much in that battle. They were also successful this time. So now they are thinking about whether this giant Mosquito has a different personality from the previous 10-meter giant Mosquito. If he doesn't have a good impression of the humans on the Earth, then flying a fighter plane here will be a big deal. It's dangerous. Fortunately, even if Jia Yan doesn't like these human fighters, he doesn't dislike them to the extent. So he looked at the metal monster building below. After it collapsed, he glanced at the fighter planes in his compound eyes, and then attacked the metal monsters below. However, during this period, Jia Yan unconsciously retained his strength again. Reborn as an Interstellar Giant Mosquito author, Bulletin U. Chapter 360. Happy New Year. Boom boom boom. The fighting below continues, but the fighter jets above are coming and going, not daring to take action. The giant Mosquito obviously doesn't care about us. The battle has reached this level. The giant Mosquito will definitely win. We can definitely take action. The lead pilot of the fighter jet suddenly issued an order. Precisely because they understood the situation, all the pilots at this time became very brave. This is what is called beating a drowned dog. Whoosh whoosh. Several fighter planes lowered their flying altitude. Worried about accidentally injuring the giant Mosquito monster, they all stood outside the collapsed building and attacked the metal monsters that were crumbling around them, knowing that nothing could be done. A cannon is fired. The defensive power of the metal monster below is still not enough for the power of the aerial cannon. Therefore, under the attack of the aircraft cannon, each one became like a sieve and was beaten to pieces. The remaining body splashed into the sky. Since the metal monster's main combat target is the large Mosquito in the sky that attacks these fighter planes at a speed far greater than that of these fighter planes, it is underestimated for these fighter planes. So much so that when they reacted and wanted to attack these sneak attack guys, this wave of fighter attack groups had already quickly pulled up their noses and fled towards high altitude. That's enough. One wave of attacks is enough. Leave the rest to the giant Mosquito and return. The leading fighter pilot, piloting his own J-20, launched the aerial bomb and immediately escaped. The next few fighter jets also flew into the sky. After I go to the meeting, I can claim to not be a soy sauce person. Maybe tomorrow's media will talk about joint battle with giant mosquitoes. What a huge feat, destroying a red light building. Although people with discerning eyes can see it. Everyone will understand that the giant mosquitoes were eliminated with great efforts, but their involvement is an undeniable fact. Several fighter planes flew away quickly into the distance, but what they didn't know was this first joint battle between the giant mosquito race and humans will be a big book in the future. It may even last for a long time. Of course, it wasn't that mean, what they did. It has made a huge contribution to the closer connection between humans and giant mosquitoes in the future. I can't blame them for anything. Jia Yan was on the ground, moving his body quickly. His figure close to the ground also exceeds the speed of sound. Because there are many obstacles. Therefore, there is no way to reduce the speed, but at this speed. Still not those slow metal monsters that can keep up. Not long after, the sound of war under the ground filled the air. It gradually became quiet. The body of the giant mosquito suddenly flew into the sky. There was a shining light in his compound eyes. At this moment, the brilliant light reflected the huge damage caused by the battle below. The 400-meter-high behemoth actually collapsed completely at this time. He collapsed and at the same time caused huge damage to all the buildings within a kilometer of the main film. In addition, after the battle with the metal monster, the entire area was filled with flames of war caused by red light, so the land below at this time completely became a scorched earth. The damage caused by this kind of scorched earth is not only as simple as the collapse of buildings, but also turns the ground into deep pits. Some of them are caused by Jia Yan, some are caused by metal monsters, and some are caused by those from the Huaxia kingdom. Caused by a fighter plane. Okay. Even if they come back to repair this building in the future, they will basically have to do it all over again, and they will even spend more effort, so this time I win. Jia Yan looked at the scenery below and felt excited in his heart. He flapped his wings and flew into the sky. Daphne, who was above the space, also fell silent when she saw the scene after the battle below. She was wildly estimating the fighting power of the big mosquito. The combat power of this giant mosquito should be at this level, so my previous estimate of these buildings was wrong. Their actual combat power is not as powerful as I estimated. Otherwise, they would not be so easily defeated by the giant mosquito. It's the right thing to destroy. Daphne thought that the giant mosquito was able to destroy a red light building without any damage, thinking that she had made a mistake in estimating the combat effectiveness of these buildings. But the fighting power of this giant mosquito is still dangerous to me now. Even if the aircraft's single laser is used, it may not do much harm to him. After all, he now has brainwave power defense way. Daphne had a headache, thinking about how to deal with the giant mosquito. A giant mosquito on the surface of the earth, but he didn't expect that in the distant sky, there was a woman who almost drove herself crazy to deal with her. He's just continuing his killing spree. The metal monster on the ground seems to know that this big mosquito can easily solve a red building with its own strength, and then it stops attacking the big mosquito. For the first time, they chose to retreat in front of other beings. But this retreat is too late. The big mosquito at this time is not a big mosquito that they want to retreat, so they get out of their way and let them retreat directly. They wanted to leave, but Jia Yan still didn't agree. Kill all metal monsters in sight. Boom 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 boom. Giant mosquito smoke rises into the sky. When Jia Yan finally knocked down the red light building in Suzhou again with one sprint. Okay, almost all the metal monsters within a radius of 500 miles have been solved, and when I saw them, they all started to evacuate. In this case, tomorrow, or the day after tomorrow, there will be no more metal monsters in this area. Is there a shadow? Jia Yan looked at the ruins in front of him. This red building in Suzhou almost killed him more than a month ago. But now, the performance of this building seems to be better than that of the one that was destroyed before. There was a huge gap between the two giant cannons. Jia Yan destroyed them directly without spending much effort. But at this time, the world has already gone through 3 alternating periods of day and night. Yes, this marathon attack and defense directly consumed Jia Yan for 3 days and nights. In 3 days, Jia Yan eliminated these 2 metal monster layers, but at this point in his physical fitness, he also felt a little tired. Jia Yan didn't have the exact number of metal monsters destroyed, but he still had around 70,000 or 80,000. So even though he had just mutated to an incredibly powerful level, he still felt tired. Let's find a place to rest. If we continue to fight like this and the metal monsters are not completely eliminated, my body won't be able to bear it. Jia Yan looked at the sunset on the horizon. The scenery ahead seemed to be the city he had destroyed along the way, except for the sunset. This city, which had extremely withstood the flames of war between giant mosquitoes and metal monsters, had been completely destroyed and turned into a huge ruin. It's really like the end of the world. But this kind of doomsday is for a better rebirth in the future, so in this sad beauty, there is a sense of new hope. The big mosquito flapped its wings and flew up again. But this time, the man-made satellites that have been monitoring changes on the Earth have never found any signs of fighting, so humans also know that this crazy war launched by giant mosquitoes against metal monsters is really over. 3 days. The whole Earth, all human beings, are caught in a kind of carnival. This super huge giant mosquito monster has almost become a legend in the Earth world. This legend is believed by humans to be passed down for thousands of years. Just a giant mosquito monster. Although most people understand that the stronger the giant mosquito monster is, the more powerful it is in combat. But no one really thinks that this giant mosquito monster will carry this war between the giant mosquito race against the metal monster race to this point. After all, no matter how powerful a single body is, it is still an individual. It is impossible to achieve such earth-shattering things with Shiyuan, right? But the giant mosquito monster they observed gave all humans a huge surprise. In other words, it was horror. It's New Year. Bamboo firecrackers were blasting outside, so I had to turn the headset music to the maximum volume so that I could code without being disturbed. Poor Bulletin Yu, on this Chinese New Year day, he has to work hard to code 555. Of course, I still wish everyone a happy new year and all the best. How do you say something? Congratulations on getting rich. Can you bring me your wallet? Haha, okay, the new year will be here in a few minutes. Bai Yu here sincerely hopes that in the new year, everyone's life and work will become more and more prosperous, and the road of life will become smoother and smoother. At the same time, I also have this expectation for myself. I hope that after the arrival of the new year, my life will be less bumpy and more happy, ha ha ha. Clang, clang, clang. The New Year bell is ringing soon. Happy New Year. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin Yu. Chapter 361. Happy first day of the first lunar month. Thank you all for your subscriptions, rewards and recommendation votes. By you can ignore those temptations and continue to update when relatives and friends go outing to play. Thank you. The combat power of this giant mosquito is far superior to the previous giant mosquitoes. Although the 10-meter giant mosquito before was still something that humans could only look up to, humans could still vaguely judge his combat effectiveness. That is almost a draw with the metal monster's red light building, and it is even possible to be injured or even die due to the inferior metal monster's attack. Just by looking at the turning point where it disappears after the battle with the metal monster in a red light building, you can know the approximate data of its combat power. But this new giant mosquito is obviously different. He has a powerful body and incredible fighting power. What's even more frightening is that no one knows whether the unfathomable fighting power of this giant mosquito is showing its limit now. He was able to eliminate almost all the metal monsters within a 500-kilometer diameter range from the starting point without a moment's rest during the 3-day battle. Such fighting power is simply beyond the imagination of humans. With every day of fighting, the news about giant mosquitoes attracts more and more human attention day by day. Until the 3rd day. Almost all surviving humans in the world are waiting in front of the internet or the radio, waiting for news from the giant mosquito. 3 days. Alone, he turned a radius of 500 kilometers into a forbidden zone for a metal monster. It is impossible for humans to do such a thing, Not even the 10-meter giant mosquito that seemed to have signed a friendship treaty with humans can do it. And this giant mosquito monster with a body of 17 meters can do it. The power of this giant mosquito ancestor has no limits. All humans are cheering. Even most humans. Still under the threat of the metal monster, even after cheering, he immediately fired a red light and killed them. But after hearing that the 17-meter giant mosquito had achieved such powerful results, its combat power was absolutely formidable. People couldn't help but cheer. The giant mosquito monster has always appeared as a generally friendly image to humans. Especially the recent 10-meter giant mosquito. And now the 17-meter giant mosquito seems to be friendly to humans. One delivers the machinery of alien civilization to human hands, and the other is in the first place where it appears. It's the hospital. And he still saved a seriously injured human child. Isn't such a giant mosquito a natural ally of human beings? He was able to expel metal monsters from an area of China today. Even the red light buildings that humans find incomprehensible have been destroyed, so tomorrow. Will he slowly increase his steps and help people in cities and countries regain their land? Therefore, the victory of the giant mosquito is definitely not a bad thing for humans. It is said that in China, some human beings have begun to migrate to places that were originally occupied due to the protection of giant mosquitoes and land reclamation. Especially people near Shanghai City, they are all pleasantly surprised. Everyone feels that the giant mosquito's actions are to protect the huge population of Shanghai City. According to incomplete statistics, after the metal monster disaster, Shanghai City once had a population of 100 million gathered here due to the relatively safe situation. Even after several general attacks by metal monsters or various human tragedies, the number of humans around Shanghai City has become much rarer, but there are still about 50 million people. It's not that they don't want to leave, it's that they have nowhere to go. And so many humans have no farmland to cultivate, so the price of food there has soared to an incredible level. In more than half a year, countless people died due to various problems due to food problems. Not only did they starve to death, more people died because of robbery or conspiracy. Even if there is a stable supply from other places, the world has long been short of food. It is foreseeable that if time delays a little longer and all the surplus food hoarded in the previous prosperous era is consumed, then the area around Shanghai will definitely be the result of hungry flies everywhere. But, at such a stressful time, the 17-meter giant mosquito monster appears. Not only is his fighting power amazing, he has also avenged countless people killed by metal monsters. He even used his powerful strength to capture land with a radius of 500 kilometers. Such a vast land, and a land where it is unlikely that metal monsters will come to harass us again. People can safely plant and cultivate here. As long as giant mosquitoes exist, this land will be everyone's hope. For a time, it can be said that nearly 10 million people swarmed into the surrounding cities and environment. The area around Shanghai Market has long been so crowded that there is no chance of survival. Those simple and small villages that appeared because of people gathering began to spread around. If it weren't for being in the wild, with the threat of metal monsters, who would be willing to crowd around Shanghai and become an exploitative figure for those gangs and gangs? With the giant mosquito monster, all these people are liberated. They swarmed into the vast land around them. No one could say that they were the owners there, right? Even if those liberated lands really have an owner, it must be the giant mosquito monster, not an individual, not a gang, or even a country. A liberated land, only the characters who liberate it are their real masters. However, giant mosquitoes will obviously not come to rob this land, so at this time, every human being is heading over there. What happens next, whether the country sends a team to manage it, or what kind of regulations, is all in the future thing. Of course, these things have to have a prerequisite. That is, the giant mosquito will really protect this land. If the metal monster attacks again, Without the fighting power of the giant mosquito monster, it will still be impossible to save this land. No one can understand the giant mosquito's thoughts. In fact, Jia Yan didn't think that deeply. It seemed that after breaking away from his human identity, he didn't have much interest in similar things, and he didn't even think about it. Rights and interests, for him, are things that he does not need to mind too much. If there was anything on earth that he needed to consider, it was those azure crystals obtained by the metal monster. This kind of crystal is actually good for my current body. In an old forest deep in the mountains, drizzle was still falling continuously, making the entire forest extremely humid. But deep in the forest, there was a huge creature that seemed to be enjoying the moisture of the rain. It was crawling among the weeds and slowly looking at the things it was holding in its feet. This is something similar to a crystal. There seems to be a touch of mist on the surface, which is constantly flowing in it, like blue water flowing everywhere, which is extremely mysterious. Jia Yan looked at this thing, and his compound eyes were full of exploration of this star. In his opinion, seeing Ningzi is also a very powerful thing. He has already swallowed it once before. The effect of that time greatly enhanced his body's defense, but after that star condensation was not involved in several mutations. Find the bookstore. Even in Jia Yan's own opinion, he should have resisted or gotten used to the star condensation after his body had mutated several times. But during this mutation, he discovered that this star condensed substance still had an incomparable effect on his body. No wonder star condensation is something that all civilizations must compete for. It even has such a great effect on me. Jia Yan felt the blue crystal hooked on his front foot, and couldn't help but feel a little emotional about his attraction. It seems that as long as there is enough of this substance, it will still have a great effect on my next mutation. Jia Yan just glanced at the azure crystal for a few moments on this rainy day, and then continued to put it back into the diaphragm tissue of his wings. The azure crystal is still effective on him, but he is not a black hole with unlimited capacity. Jia Yan can be sure that if he uses the azure crystal again and wants to mutate, he will definitely die. After all, he has just successfully mutated, and he doesn't know when the next mutation will unfold. Maybe there will be no chance of that kind of mutation in his lifetime. Reborn as an Interstellar Giant Mosquito author, Bulletin U. Chapter 362. Happy first day of the first lunar month, the Earth War volume is over, the next volume is First Meeting, Starry Sky Journey. Stay tuned. In fact, mutation is like this. If you don't feel that you can mutate, and you start hastily, the mutation that was originally a narrow escape will definitely be the result of a narrow escape. Jia Yan has taken many risks before, so he wants to wait until the opportunity is ripe for his next mutation. And even if you want to mutate, the current blue crystals are probably not enough. I can feel that if I really want to continue mutating, the number of azure crystals needed will increase geometrically. The last mutation only used a few azure crystals as the main material. Although one of them is very huge, and may even be a unique existence among the azure crystals, but if I want to continue to mutate, even if the time is ripe, but I want to mutate again, I will need at least 100 or even 100 azure crystals. More is possible. The azure crystal can continue to be snatched from the metal monster, but Jia Yan still doesn't know when the body will continue to mutate, or whether signs will appear after a certain amount of training. That's it. Now I can at least be sure that there is nothing that can threaten me on the surface of the earth. Let's rest for a while. After all, the effect of mutation has not been completely absorbed. After it is absorbed, maybe I can be a little stronger. After thinking about this, Jia Yan's body slowly crawled down again, and drops of rain fell on his body. The weather in the south is more humid and cold. Although it is already spring, it is raining. On a rainy day, the cold and wet feeling is still very strong. The big mosquito didn't feel much cold, but in this weather, he still felt uncomfortable. So the prostrate body curled up a little. Vaguely. Time continues to pass. The big mosquito caused a disturbance. It still has not passed. On the Earth, the storm about the formation of giant mosquitoes seems to have just started. A 17-meter giant mosquito. It only took 3 days from appearance to changing people's way of thinking. During these 3 days, human beings are constantly searching for all information about the giant mosquito. Although the previous giant mosquito race was already due to his strong fighting power, not once was he noticed by humans. Can be compared with this time. This time the big mosquito has shown that it can do it on its own. The fighting power that will change the face of the entire Earth. In fact, after all is said and done, even Earthlings who claim to be high-level creatures. In fact, in the face of absolute force, they are no different from ordinary lower creatures. They will also be subdued by more powerful forces, just like metal monsters. Although they almost caused the people on Earth to completely disappear from the Earth, at the same time, there were also many people who were obsessed with the powerful force displayed by metal monsters, and some weird religions even appeared, believing in metal monsters. However, after the giant mosquito monster showed its combat power to look down on metal monsters a long time ago, this weird belief in the strong man's thinking slowly transformed into the race of giant mosquitoes. This giant mosquito race is not only more powerful than individual metal monsters, but they don't seem to have much ill will towards the people on Earth. Compared with metal monsters, this kind of creature is naturally mankind's true comrade in arms and powerful ally. The appearance of the 17-meter giant mosquito with that decisive power is when the people on Earth are truly impressed by this giant mosquito race. Many people began to truly believe in the giant mosquito monster. Some Chinese people went so far as to hang pictures or memorial tablets of giant mosquito monsters in their homes. Although it is not exaggerated enough to treat it as a god, many people respect this thing that is more realistic and powerful than a god. Jia Yan's strength has been truly recognized by the people on Earth. Time passes day by day. The disappearance of the 17-meter giant mosquito this time did not panic humans. Because the metal monster did not come back again in the 500 kilometers occupied by the giant mosquito. This was different from the last time when the 10-meter giant mosquito damaged a metal monster building and they immediately repaired it. This time the metal monster seemed to I really don't plan to return to that lost area. It seems that they also know that even if they return, they will only end up being destroyed by that terrifying evolved beast again. Jia Yan's efforts were not in vain. Within a week, apart from some small-scale encounters, the metal monsters and the people on Earth seemed to have entered a stable period. At this time, both sides seemed to know that there was an existence with decisive power in the war that was dormant, so both sides they didn't continue the war. Everyone is waiting to see the giant mosquito's next move. But that big mosquito made no other moves after cleaning up an area of 500 kilometers. Yes, Jia Yan is still resting on his own. His mutation has become longer and longer, and the rest process also takes an extremely long time. No earthly aircraft can detect traces of the giant mosquito, but this does not include the disk aircraft far away in space. This aircraft is more than 1,000 kilometers above the Earth, observing the giant mosquito monster below. Why is he still resting today? Did the previous battle really consume him a lot? If this is really the case, then I can roughly calculate the combat effectiveness of this giant mosquito. The woman in the aircraft slowly shook the delicious red wine in her hand. Under the sparkling light, the color of the red wine looked very coquettish under the gorgeous lights. This woman is also so charming. At this time, she has recovered from the frightened look after seeing the fighting power of the giant mosquito a week ago. Although the fighting power of the giant mosquito has become very terrifying, it is not unstoppable. If you calculate it this way, it seems that after I separated from him, he evolved again due to some opportunities. He is worthy of being an evolutionary beast. In one evolution, he can directly evolve his body to such a huge level. But this kind of evolution is definitely not normal. His size cannot match his current strength. So I still have a chance. Okay, the battle code name is Mosquito Massacre. The first purpose of the battle is to attract him out first. In space, the combat effectiveness of my aircraft is the most powerful. Thinking of this, Daphne slowly lowered her aircraft towards the surface of the Earth. For a moment, the red light buildings on the Earth suddenly started to react. These red light buildings seem to think that the broken aircraft driven by Jia Yan is something belonging to their own civilization, so they are not very defensive. However, against aircraft like Daifuni, their defense is extremely fast. Boom boom boom. Suddenly, there were several red light buildings, emitting huge red light into the sky. Because the distance was too far, these red rays, after penetrating a distance of several hundred kilometers, suddenly shot into the vast starry sky like a child who had lost his target. Not a single shot hit the 20-meter-long disc aircraft. However, the disc aircraft, looking for the book, is also afraid of the dozens of red light buildings around the world that are eyeing it below. It looks timid and does not seem to dare to descend. At the same time, the big mosquito crawling in the vast forest gently lifted its huge head. His compound eyes were shining as he looked at the sky above his head. There were several huge red rays of light shooting from the sky into the distant dark clouds. The spring rain that has been falling for more than a week has not stopped. The big mosquito is bathing in the rain and dew given to him by heaven and earth. Water is dripping from all over his body. Having a huge body comes with a price. It is impossible for ordinary buildings to accommodate him now. So I can only suffer slowly in the annoying raindrops. These red lights actually attack high altitudes. Those so-called civilization exploration ships cannot arrive so quickly. So, apart from me, there seems to be only one person in this solar system who can cause red lights to attack like this.